How do you determine the beneficiaries of the estate?
Benefiting from an estate, first of all, will depend on the will, if there is one. If such a thing exists, normal families, the husband is deceased, the wife takes charge of the estate. But there are situations where children will begin to fight their mother. They now say, so I'm going to do X and Y. But the challenge, Farai, is that not many people have wills.
Yeah.
Even the big shots.
We call this effort Expertly Speaking. My name is Farai Mwakutuya. Today, joined once again by Advocate Fortune Chasi. Today we're talking about the registration of deceased estates. A very, topical issue because a lot of the time families struggle with the death of a loved one.
Yes.
Family, friends, you lose a loved one, and particularly where there's property and inheritance issues. What does the law say should be done when someone passes away?
Well, the first thing, Farai, is that this law is contained in the Administration of Estates Act. So somebody dies, the surviving spouse, child, or close relative, or in their absence, a creditor. A creditor has an interest in the estate. The estate has to be registered within 14 days. Now, many people do not register these estates. They start fighting. Whatever it is, before the estate is registered. Why must the estate be registered? The estate must be registered with the master of the High Court. So every bit of an asset of the deceased is put together before the master. If it's a house, the title deeds are there. If it's a car, it's there. The registration books are there. Bank balances and so forth. So an estate is not just about the positive side, in other words, the assets.
Yes.
There are also liabilities. Yes, somebody had taken a loan or owed their friend $1 million. Their friend will come with the agreement, I want my money. And so the estate is registered, and an administrator, an executor, if there is a will, the will may state that I want Farai to be the executor of my estate. It's better. It's always better to have a will, because then you know that if Farai is going to be in charge of this estate, you will have the best interests of my family. Now, if you do not have a will, the master will appoint an executor. And that person may not be known to you. They may not know you. They know nobody in your family. They are not concerned about your politics and sensitivities. No, they'll just do their work. You don't know their character. So I would suggest that really people need to think about having a will, and also have the will registered. It's official, it's there. In the will, appoint your preferred person to be responsible for the estate.
Okay. If someone has died, by when must this be done? The registration of the estate?
14 days.
14 days.
Yes.
But we are grieving. It's 14 days.
You need to grieve very quickly. So because you are not the only people who are interested in the estate. You could have banks that, like I said, advanced money to the person. You have other lay people who advanced money to the person, or you have some other claims. They can't wait ad infinitum, because the longer it takes, the more the estate is dissipated.
True.
Yeah.
If it's a business store,
people are somebody gets into a bottle store. This is now my bottle store. They start drinking the beer and the shops. Everything is just, or they start selling the assets. All those sales that are conducted before registration of the estate are null and void. And you're actually committing an offense because you are selling something which is not yours. The property should be in the hands of the executor. So you face civil liabilities as well as criminal liabilities by rushing to take this car and start using it or selling it.
Kana kuti mari yerenti yanga ichibva
Yes.
ndichaipiwa wautoitora.
Farai, do you know, as we are talking now, there is somebody who is eating money from a property which was not registered, which belonged to a deceased person. It shouldn't be like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you may then, years later when you are found out, be forced to cough up all this money that you've been receiving. But that has been your only source of income. Where will you get the replacement money?
Before I get into the specifics of how to do this process, this point you're talking about, it's a very commonplace, so I want to cover it. What if I am the spouse or I am the son? Saka ndikuziva kuti ndini ndichazopiwa zvinizvi. Ndikangofana kutanga hangu ku-administer and managing and being in charge.
No, you have to be appointed.
Okay.
Right? You have, it's not your property. Who told you that the person was going to appoint you? Maybe by the time they died, their mind had changed about how they view you. Mm-hmm. The estate must be registered. Mm-hmm. In all likelihood, it is very possible that the surviving spouse may be appointed, but it's not a given. And even if they are appointed, this is now a formalized system which has checks and balances to ensure that every beneficiary of the estate gets to know that this is what is happening. This is the total value of the estate, and it is proposed to share it in this fashion. Those who have a problem can then raise that problem and complain to the master, and if they want, they can sue the master, the executor, and the High Court, and, they are transparent processes.
Okay. Before we get to that, though, we had spoken about, what led us into this discussion was within 14 days, the estate must be registered. What constitutes registration? What needs to be taken or lodged with the master of the High Court?
Well, first of all, Farai, what is needed is proof that somebody has died. Uh-huh. So you obviously need the death notice, death certificate, as it is called. If there is a will, you take the will to the master. If you do not have a copy of the will, you may check with the master's register. It's possible that the person may have done a will and posted it with them. If you are the surviving spouse and you have a marriage certificate, you should take that as well, because your benefits may depend upon the fact that you were married to the person. If you had a prenuptial contract or a postnuptial contract, in other words, a prenuptial contract done before marriage, agreeing on how you will share property, or a postnuptial contract done after marriage, clarifying how you share your property, you also similarly submit the same. Then you need to submit an inventory. An inventory is a list of the property. It could be houses, commercial buildings, could be vehicles, could be farms, whatever it is. You list and give it to the master. It is an offense to give false information with regard to the estate. So you decide no, imba yeku islands davisiya dongo declare iso ukazobatwa ameno zvako.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So In estate is registered.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that the master will then appoint an executor.
Yes.
What is an executor?
Basically, this is the person now who will deal with the nitty-gritties of the estate. They may want to understand the values of the property. They want to understand the beneficiaries. Who are they? Okay, I was his son, birth certificate. Right? I was his wife, marriage certificate. Okay, with the customary law marriage, prove it. Okay? So that's the person who deals with the nitty-gritties of this estate. And the person must be a person who is upright, a person of integrity, who will not see the estate is their newly acquired business entity.
Yeah.
No. They are paid in accordance with the rules set out in the law. There are tariffs that will govern a lot of these things that are to be done, and they will be compensated separately. So they cannot be greedy and want to take chunks of things for themselves, or if they come to the decision that a property must be sold, they should not collude with their friend to buy it for a pittance. Also, itengesa kumberi at 20 times the value. So those kind of acts will attract criminal sanctions. So in short, the executor will pool the resources, take charge of them, and carry out the administration of the estate with the view of winding up the estate. So the estate has to come to an end at a certain time, which means if there are creditors and there is no cash, the assets will need to be liquidated, and everyone who is paid is paid. And everyone who is meant to get a particular asset gets their asset. Once that duty is discharged, then that is really the end of the matter. We begin to then look at the new estates of the new people.
Okay.
Okay.
Executor, you've mentioned, must be paid and all that, and
Yes.
you did say that appointed by the master. However, people might want, as you said earlier, might be someone you don't know, but even a family member can be an executor, provided
Yes.
everyone agrees.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So some families that are organized, upon the death of their relative, they will convene a meeting. You know, Pachwan Bana Sarabavana. We do have customary systems that are meant to help us in these situations. You have Sarabavana. They don't inherit the wife. Some try to do that, but that's not the point. They are supposed to look after the children as a father or a mother. Those people are supposed to do that. But at the same meeting, people can then say, okay, Panenya estate ripopana. So we are now asking you, Farai, to run with these things. And as a family, we are agreed that you become the person who administer this estate. And normally the master will call the relevant members of the family for a meeting with him to satisfy him or herself that they are in agreement. So they agree that this is our executor for this purpose. But it's normally problematic where, for example, the deceased was the father of many children from many wives. It takes long. There are cliques formed. The father may have divorced another wife 40 years ago. She will appear today for the estate. Say if it's a customary law setup where people just say, and Chakoda, and maybe they send a gupur or something like
Yeah.
that. That person may want to come back, especially if an estate is very big.
Which leads me to the next, I suppose, an important question is, who are the beneficiaries? How do you determine the beneficiaries of the estate? Is it spouse and children only? Is it parents, siblings? Maybe you can also, is there guidance from the law in terms of that?
Yeah, maintenance, or rather, benefiting from any estate, first of all, will depend on the will, if there is one.
Mm-hmm.
So in the will, the deceased will state his or her wishes. Whom do they want to benefit from their estate?
Mm-hmm.
And in normal, if such a thing exists, normal families, the husband is deceased, the wife takes charge of the estate. But there are situations where children
Mm-hmm.
will begin to fight their mother.
Mm-hmm.
Adult children,
Very, very common.
married
Yeah.
with their own 10 children, will come and fight the mother for the father's estate. Yeah, there are many situations like that. But remember, upon the death of a married partner, in the absence of other legal arrangements, their portion of the estate will go to the surviving spouse.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, no it. But you will have the eldest son, especially if there is one son who is the eldest. They now say, I am now Mr. Mwakutu, I have stepped into his shoes. So I'm going to do X and Y. This is now mine. This house in GCPT is now mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can go and stay Kumbare or stuff like that. So the will must be very clear as to who should benefit. There's nothing wrong in saying that your adult children or even grandchildren can benefit from your estate. But the challenge, Farai, is that not many people have wills.
Yeah.
Even the big shots.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They acquire properties sometimes secretly,
Mm-hmm.
and when they die, the family does not even know that there is such a property. They take security all over the show. Nobody knows. When they die,
People
come now.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, as an outsider, you see these big houses, buildings, and so forth, and you believe your parent is very rich,
Mm-hmm.
but you have no idea of the debts that are being carried by the estate.
Mm-hmm.
So people who are owed money or some other right by the deceased will sue the estate. And the face of that legal action will be the executor.
Yeah. As you said, there's the positive and the negative.
And so people generally, you have never heard people talking about the debts that the deceased left, especially if he was rich.
Mm-hmm.
He was rich, he left hotels, he left lodges and cars and what. Nobody bothers to look at the negative side of the balance sheet of the deceased's property.
So I think the issues of succession and how all these other things will be handled, we could go on and on about that. So it could be content. We'll do that as a content for another episode. But specifically here, just on that registry, the process, as you've said, within 14 days must be done. You've talked us through the documentation that must be presented, the appointment of an executor. As you were talking, you said the executor is the person who must administer the estate. So we also hear another term, which is an administrator.
Mm-hmm.
What is an administrator and how does it differ from an executor?
Well, in certain situations, the terms are used interchangeably.
Okay.
And they will principally do the same things, and one person is in charge. So you may have somebody being called executor and administrator of this estate. The obligations and the legal requirements are by and large the same as between the two situations.
Okay. And also, I think importantly, as you've raised, as family members, these disputes will arise. The way to go is approach the master and say, look, appoint someone for us to act in the best interest of the estate.
Yes, that happens quite often. Obviously, it may be the best thing in certain circumstances, but it just shows good family and family disorganized, because then you lose control. That person is just doing their work. Whereas if you appoint a fair-minded individual within the family, that everyone says, no, we are tore my sides. I don't go deal in my situations are repo. You then know that your father's child, the youngest Arakukresh, will be able to be looked after. But if you have somebody else from somewhere else who doesn't know the dynamics of your family, they'll make their decisions based on what has been put before them. And that decision may not be what the family really wants or needs, so you lose control.
Yeah, very, I think, complex issues, and emotions will often cloud what happens here. But the law is very clear. It is governed, as you quite rightly said, there's the law, and we must follow then what must be done, those steps. As a parting shot, obviously having a will would be best case scenario. Where there isn't one, we'll then go approach the master of the High Court. Either way, you approach the master. As a parting shot to people who may be in a scenario where there is no will, and as a recap of what we've just been discussing.
Well, I think I need to emphasize to the public that it's important to register your will. It's not only good to do so, but it's a legal requirement. You may not know the number of bank accounts that your relative had, but the master has a mechanism to check with institutions and get account numbers and be given bank balances, etc. So you take off both the physical and the mental burden of administering the estate. It must be registered, things pulled together. There needs to be an understanding as to who is owed what, debts must be paid. And once that is done, I'm sure the deceased will rest peacefully knowing that things have been done properly.
What are the consequences of not registering an estate? So if, for example, we say, I would imagine someone is sitting and saying, master, expenses and things like that. You take over this and all that. And we don't register the estate. What are the consequences?
Yeah, well, the danger, first of all, is that you cannot transfer the property. You cannot and should not benefit from the property, because the property should be in the hands of the master or the persons that have been appointed to officially run that estate. If you do manage to, it may be difficult to transfer a house, but it may be easy to sell a car, but that sale is illegal. So if somebody sells you this car, say, and it hasn't been registered as part of the estate, you stand the risk of being followed by the law and the car being recovered from you, because it's part of the estate. Saka, you are going to lose money, and the seller may face criminal sanctions. If the estate has been registered, you can't go to a bank and demand my father had $2 million in this bank account. give it to me. No, you have to register your estate. The banks will respond to the official system dealing with the estate. So the consequences of not registering an estate can be very serious, because any transactions that are carried out will be rendered null and void, because you cannot sell something that is yours, that is not yours, and you stand the risk of being reported to the police.
If, for instance, I think it's very important as we wrap up, I know Mr. X has passed away.
Yeah.
I have an interest because perhaps I'm owed money, or I'm a child from a previous marriage.
Yeah.
And I do I have a recourse to say, look, this estate has not been registered. What can I do? Or there are some assets that have been left out. Again, is there a way in which where you know that there's perhaps not transparency or clarity or accuracy, you can actually go and say, look, there's also A, B, C, and D. That's not there.
You are referring to speaking to the master?
Yes, speaking to the master.
Yes,
Can I approach?
Yes, yes. If some assets have been left out, or some assets have been disposed of, it's perfectly legitimate to go and present the master with that information and the information relating to the person who has done that. All the assets of the deceased need to be pulled together. There is nothing that is part of his estate which should be dealt with outside the context of the estate that has been pulled together under the master's system.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much, Advocate Chasi. We need to wrap this up because of time, but we must come back and revisit some of those issues, particularly around succession.
Thank you.
Will writing, as you're saying, very, very important.
Yeah.
That does it for this edition of Expertly Speaking. My name is Farai Mwakutuya. My guest has been Advocate Fortune Chasi. Be sure to join us again next time. In the meantime, engage with us via our digital and social media platforms. We'd love to hear from you. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.